Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jeff here from Burley Fishing on the Monster Bass channel, and today we're talking about 5 tips to fish this little guy right here, the Ned rig. So first things first, let's talk about what the Ned rig actually is. The Ned rig is simply a short stick bait or creature bait, something like that, or that, or that, or a craw. It's just some little stick bait or creature pattern bait plastic, and you rig that little stick bait or creature bait on one of these, just a little mushroom headed jig head. This is a Z-Man Shrooms jig head, so it's kind of like the most commonly used one. Really, I'll just start this off. There's a ton of different brands. The one that this is all designed to be fished on, the one that really like pushed this forward in the market and made it much bigger than it was before, would be Z-Man. And what I really recommend, what I landed the most fish on, would be that Z-Man Shroom with the classic TRD, the real deal, or the turd, as we like to think of it, stick bait. Colors, all sorts of different options. We can talk about that. Tip number 1 is rigging it. So what you want to do, like I recommended, is use a classic Shrooms jig head and that stick bait. Just gonna take your jig head upside down like so. We're gonna take our little turd here and we're just gonna thread it in just like that from the top. Now, top and bottom on the stick bait doesn't matter too much. What I like to do is take this little dimple section there, and the top section is more like ribbed or lined. So I make the line the top section. This is more tapered towards the tail, so that's what I call the bottom. And if you have a split color like so, we're gonna go ahead and thread it so that the brighter color is on the bottom. Fish see better up than down. That's why we do it. So we're gonna slide this on here, right up, nice and easy. And we wanna make it as straight as we can. So I like to just look at the profile of the hook while I do it. And we're gonna pop the hook out towards the middle of the bait, slide it up. And what you're looking for is that nice straight profile when you look at it from the side or from the front. So as long as it's decently straight, it'll be fine. I've rigged them really terribly before and caught plenty of fish, so they don't really care that much. Last thing you're gonna do to finish up that rigging is I want you guys to stretch it out if you're using the Z-Man Elastec. So that Elastec needs to be activated to be more buoyant. So you're just gonna kind of stretch it out. I mean, that's how stretchy that is. Try and do that with your Senko, doesn't work. So we're gonna stretch that out, and that's going to give it a little more action in the water, but it's also gonna be more buoyant. So we stretch that out, that salt in there is gonna help this thing float a lot better. And the whole idea behind the Ned is that you can sort of dead stick it. We'll talk about that in later tips. So it sits on the bottom with a nice tall profile just like that, and fish just eat it up. Tip number 2, always bring super glue. Super glue is gonna be absolutely a necessity here. So what will happen is these Elastec baits will literally catch 200 plus fish if you treat it right. The fish will not really be able to damage this Ned. This one itself has caught about 40 or 50 fish. It's just been sitting in this box all year. But fish can't really tear this thing apart with that Elastec. It's very, very durable. However, it can slide down the hook. So if it starts sliding down the hook shank just like that, what you're gonna do is take your, in this case, Loctite or whatever the heck super glue you wanna use. You're just gonna take and put a little dab at the top, and not glue all your fingers together. Then you're gonna slide your Z-Man plastic right back up. Hold it there for a second, and then that is never coming off unless you want it to. I mean, obviously you can re-rig this eventually, you just peel it off, throw another one on there. But that is how you make these baits last a really long time. Very cheap, quick fix here. Tip number 3, alternate rigging options. Now, I'm gonna throw a much more in-depth video of this on my own channel, so go subscribe to Burley Fishing, check it out. But just to be quick here, you can basically go open hook or weedless, like that. So we have this little weedless wire guard. This is again the Z-Man branded Shrooms with just weedless setting right there. You can also rig this thing with different styles of creature baits. So we have Z-Man Craw. They also make a bug style. This is a Strike King bug style. We've got blades that we can throw on it. You've got different colored Ned heads. then of course, you can also rig your own plastics, grub styles, cut a Senko in half. We've got different kinds of tails, all sorts of stuff. So if you guys want to see more in-depth variations, go check it out on my channel. And you can also essentially Texas rig this. This is another Z-Man option with this extra wide gap hook. There's another one, Lifted Jigs makes a pretty legit one that's more of a shroom head that'll stand up with an EWG hook, so you can rig it weedless. So weedless variations as well. Tip number 4 is the actual rod and reel setup that you guys are gonna throw this on. Rod and reel setup for this, you're gonna want a medium light to medium rod with fast action. And I would just go for a standard like 1,000 to 2,000 size reel spinning setup, just like this. So you want that lighter setup. You want that lighter setup because this is a finesse option. You're gonna have lighter little tap tap bites, and you want that sensitive rod so that you can feel the bites. And as soon as you feel them, you actually don't have to set the hook really hard. So when you actually feel that bite, all you're actually gonna do is lean into it. So having that fast action tip that's just gonna fold with you towards the end of the rod makes it just really easy to set that hook on them, and then you're just gonna reel them into the boat. Line for this, I recommend having a braided line, about 10 to 12 pound test braided line spooled up, and then throw on a mono or fluoro leader on the end of that. Give yourself about 6 to 8 feet as far as the leader goes. I like to tie a double uni knot. You can do an FG knot. Basically just go with whatever knot you're more proficient at, that you can get the smallest knot size to slide through the guides on your rod. But that leader is, again, this is a finesse setup, is going to keep that line invisible so that finicky bass will still attack that bait and you'll still get those strikes. Tip number 5 is how you actually fish this thing. So you got 2 options really. The Ned works really well in open water situations. It's excellent in the river, smallmouth candy, but also smallmouth lakes. It will absolutely crush. So open water, you're just gonna cast it out pretty far. You let it sit on the bottom. The action we're looking for is this, just letting it sit straight up on the bottom. It's called dead sticking. So you're gonna let it sit, maybe pause 5-10 seconds if the fishing is really slow, if the fish are finicky, if they're reluctant to strike, or if they're just laying low doing nothing. Colder weather, really colder water. And we're just gonna dead stick it for long periods of time. From there, we can either pop it along the bottom. I actually have underwater footage of this if you guys wanna check it out on my channel, Burley Fishing. But you can pop it across the bottom, short little hops, kind of like you would do with a shaky head worm. And then you can also lift and swing. So we're gonna actually draw it up like you would a Texas rig and let it swing back towards you on the bank or in your boat. And you can also actually swim it. So it's gonna look like a little bait fish as it swims horizontally, hook up just like that. We're gonna reel it in nice and slow, let it move. You'll get a little action there. More so on the bug creature style baits that you can hook up with these things too. My favorite application of this though would be to pitch it into heavy cover. So again, you might want to go weedless with that, maybe Texas rig it, do something different with one of those EWG setups. But I like to actually just pitch it right into heavy cover, let it sit there, pull it slowly over logs and things like that. And as it knocks around in that cover, I tend to get a ton of strikes on that. Lots of reaction strikes, and fish just cannot stand it when these things are around. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. Be sure to subscribe to Monster Bass for more tips like this. Check out my channel, Burley Fishing, as well, and subscribe there if you like the content. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you can see when we post more videos, and we'll see you guys out on the water.